Welcome to Science and Engineering, the Guide. Today we'll be talking about topic selection. So as we showed in the previous video, this is the general overview of a science and engineering project, and we'll be going over the third step, topic selection.
When brainstorming, the first thing you want to do is to make sure that your scientific question is an original question, or in the words of Albert Einstein, answer the questions that nobody is asking. The thing about these scientific experiments is that they have to be original so that you can advance the knowledge of humanity. Of course, it is always allowed to be inspired by projects, research, and experiments. You want to ask scientific questions that are intriguing and connect aspects of science.
All projects start with an unknown, something in the world that you want to figure out or some perplexing observation that you want to investigate. This is the substance of your project and will transform into a topic that you can extend through your research. The most important thing is to write down each and everything that you observe in the real world and try to find some uncertainty or inconsistency that you can investigate. Like we mentioned in a previous video, you'll format this question to include your dependent and your independent variable, but you should get down exactly what you want to test and exactly what you need to know to have enough knowledge to test this thing in your experiment.
Many of your ideas can be inspired from the outside world. For example, looking at this picture of your regular day in the neighborhood, you could research into the efficiency of car engines or maybe stronger building materials for houses to combat natural disasters. You could probably think of tons of ideas just by looking at your outside world. Taking inspiration from your problems and that you see in daily life is always a good skill to have, because especially when it comes to scientific research. There are two ways in which you can enter this competition and advance the knowledge of humanity.
Scientific inquiry is what we discussed in the last video about asking a scientific question and using the scientific method to answer that question. On the other hand, you have engineering design, in which you have a goal to build some device or machine that helps with solving some problem in the world. In the last video, we went over the steps in scientific inquiry. However, with engineering design, you stick with your goal for the model. You want to make engineering requirements to separate the tasks within your engineering goals so that it's a much more simpler process. You always want to do your research, stick to the separate parts of the machine, prototype and rebuild, and combine these parts and keep repeating this process until you meet all your engineering requirements so that you can achieve your goal. Jay will move on to background research.
Regardless of the path you want to take in your science project, an important step is background research. Background research is where you gather all the information you need to make the project. Doing some initial research on the ideas is always a good idea because it allows you to develop your scientific question and engineering goals with much more meaning. Using official scientific newspapers, websites from research companies, etc., is always a good idea to find the answers to your questions about the universe. You are going to ask many questions that stem from the keywords who, what, when, where, why, and how. With these questions stems, you will be able to ask thorough questions to better understand your topic. It's also important to keep track of the website URLs, book titles, journals, etc. in APA format. Your future self will thank you because citing your sources is always a good practice while doing scientific research. Siddharth will move on to significance of study and real-world applications.
The significance of study is important to consider because you always want to research a topic that you're interested in. It's also important to have a project that will benefit the world in some way. This closely ties into the real-world applications of your project. The real-world application is also very important to consider when choosing your project because while the significance of study states the purpose of your research, the real-world application will allow you to get an idea of how your project will be implemented in real life. The reason we emphasize real-world applications during topic selection is because it should always be your goal to find and research a project where you have a true purpose and true impact on the world and the problem you choose to solve.
We also want to highlight something that seems minor, but is way more important than you might think, and that's dating your documents. Please make sure you have a scientific journal, whether it be digital or physical, where you date when you start and complete each step of the process. This will allow you to not only keep yourself organized and keep track of your project, but also have a proof of when you started and ended your experimentation, which will be one of the fields in the forms that you'll have to fill out to participate at a competition. The bottom line is that staying organized is essential in signing, and dating your document is an integral part of that. Thank you so much for your time that you took to watch this video. And the next topic that we're going to cover in our channel is going to be background research. If you have any other questions, always feel free to email us at the email listed on the screen or comment below.
This is Science Squad signing off.
See you guys in the next one.